everyone, to Crystal Teeny TV. I have a returning guest. He's now one of my favorite people, Joel Lambert, former Navy SEAL, that we're going to be talking about prepping. There's a lot of news circulating about food shortages and, inflation and all those kind of things. So I've been doing the prepping for at least the last 2 years, and I've been talking about it extensively for 2 years. And now we have an actual expert that's on prepping. He said this is his area. So I'm super excited to have Joel Lambert join me once again for Crystal Teeny TV.
Navigation and communication. So in a situation like what may be happening here with our government and with the supply chains and things like that, you definitely need a way to communicate and a way to navigate to your safe place, your safe house, get your friends in, whatever you set up ahead of time, you'll need to have those considerations addressed. So that's really what I think people should know, and that is how they should go about their prepping.
Okay,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say, people want to just go to Costco and buy all the canned food that they can, or order these very expensive emergency food kits, which there's nothing wrong with that.
But communication, people are talking about what if the grid goes down, like what happens if the grid goes down? That goes for cellular communication, banking, all of those things. So why don't we talk about cell communication, like walkie-talkies? What would be the ideal instrument to have if cell phones aren't?
Instrument would be a sick ham radio setup. But becoming a ham radio operator is not difficult, but the thing is that you are working with a radio signal that you need to bounce off the ionosphere, that you need to possibly relay with other people to communicate long distances. And so while it's not a particularly difficult skill, it's something that is very perishable and something that you need to practice with. And so right now, for people to just go out and buy a ham radio base set, I mean, you're going to be hit or miss at best. But what's nice about that is that you can set on receive only. To transmit, you need a ham radio license you need to pass a test and get licensed to transmit with a ham radio. But if shit hits the fan, nobody's going to be caring about that. But I can tune into weather channel stations. I can tune into emergency news stations. I can turn into government stations. I can tune it into to NOAA, the National Organization of Atmospheric, the real weather. I can tune into, people are going to be broadcasting. The ham radio people are going to be going crazy. So I'll be able to get all kinds of information. And that's super important, staying connected with that.
How far do they reach? What's the distance on those things?
Well, the distance you're going to be able to transmit or receive with a ham is going to depend on two things: your antenna and your broadcast power, what kind of power the base station has. And power is all regulated by the government. So there are some techniques. If you can't reach the person you're trying to reach, and CB and radio guys are really good about this, you would say, I request a relay, and basically, who are you trying to reach? I'm trying to reach someone in California right now. And so then you'll pass on the information you want to somebody I'm in Tennessee, maybe somebody in Kentucky picks me up, and then they have a real powerful place, and they shoot it over to Ohio, or maybe even Coeur d'Alene or Idaho, and then they bounce it down to somebody else who finally gets it to the region that you want to get it to. And people are really good about that. The ham radio community is pretty tight. It's pretty cool. So I highly suggest getting as deep into it as you want to get into is worthwhile. There's all kinds of free online study courses and such for get your ham radio license. But just getting something you can monitor with is a very good idea. But just to have that, a real 2-meter base station or handheld type radio that you can monitor and tune easily, that's much better than any of these kind of weather radios that they sell on Instagram and stuff.
That's brilliant, because I had no idea. Like, we bought walkie-talkies. I don't even know what they are or what they do, but the ham radio, I'm definitely going to look into that. I mean, because as normal people, not someone like yourself, like, we don't know what we need. We have no idea. So it's just a really important subject to talk about when you have the person that's in the White House telling you that there's going to be shortages and this and that. So it's getting real now, from us talking about it being considered the conspiracy theorist to a person, that's supposed to be in charge saying that, there's going to be food shortages. So how we prep for
Exactly. And Hillary Clinton talking about the New World Order out complete. It's all out now. They're not even trying to hide it. Take down the communication system, the grid, which they may do either as a false flag or just to keep information from getting out there as things start to really pop. Cell phones and internet and things like that will be paused, and that's not going to be a reliable way of communication. What I ended up doing, and they're really hard to get a hold of right now, is when I was doing Manhunt, there's a company called Delorme, and Garmin bought them out. But what Delorme was is a satellite tracker. And so there were little units they'd stick in my bag. After I got lost one time, the lions were after me. They made me go with one of these all the time. So this way they could pull up on their computer and see where I was at any point in time. And so what this does is this is a GPS unit that is really high quality, a nav unit, but it has this button on the side, SOS. And so if I were to push this and hold this, it's going to send out an SOS signal from any place on the globe to their base station. They're going, and they're going to send help no matter where. If I'm in the middle of the Indian Ocean or if I'm in the Himalayas or anything like that. These are illegal to use in places like China and stuff, but it's an emergency thing. So I'm always carrying this with me when I'm paragliding, when I'm skydiving, when I'm doing any adventurous, some off-grid stuff. I can do that. But the real reason I bought this, besides the navigation, great GPS unit, this works on the Iridium satellite network. So it's not a cellular network. It's a satellite phone network. And so I have people's cell phones, and I have other people who have Garmin units plugged into this, and so I can go in and send texts and communicate to the people that I need to communicate with, even when the cell system is down. Yes.
Okay, so how much does one of these devices cost?
$400 to $500. But you can get the smaller ones that don't have as much capability, that still has the SOS and still has the text capability for, I think, $350. But
InReach?
Garmin InReach, and they have a great website. You can see the different models they have and all of that. Mine is the Explorer Plus. And the nice thing about this is I spend $500 on it for prepping reason, but I use this every time I go off grid. This will link with your Facebook. It'll link with your Instagram, and you can send updates and photos and shit to your social media. You can have auto answer. It does a plethora of things. And so it's a handy thing to have if you do anything, road trips, anything like that. And then if they shut everything down, I don't think they're going to shut their Iridium network down. I'll be able to communicate with the people I care about.
That's brilliant. Okay. See, these are the things I don't know exist. And I'm sure a lot of other people don't know either. So that is ideal to have.
I'm available.
Yeah. So people are getting serious with this now. Finally.
As they should be.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else with communications, or should we move on to?
For communications, I think, I mean, you can, as far as what we may be approaching, I think this is what I've got. I've got ham radio, and I've got the Delorme or the Garmin InReach. The rest of the stuff, and there'll be a lot of people I'm not able to communicate with, and that's okay. I don't care. But the people I need to communicate with to have these units and stuff, I can communicate with. And if they block off this will go to cell phones as well as other units like units. So, that's what I've got, and I'm pretty comfortable with that.
Okay, good. I mean, you would know, you've been in the wilderness, probably, I don't know, lost at certain times. And if you have something like that and you could get signal and you were never lost, did you say?
At some point in times, I wasn't exactly sure where I was at, but I figured it out pretty quickly.
But not lost.
Lost.
Okay. I'm glad we clarified that.
Yes, thank you. That goes. Navigation is another good thing. So this also covers, and some of the things when I do an escape and evasion kit, this is something that I talk about a lot. I like to have, if I'm carrying something, I don't want it to be good for just one thing. I want it to be good for a multiplicity of uses. And so this, I've got with the satellite network, I've got GPS navigation on this, wilderness and road. So I can use this for navigating on the roads, and I can use this for, complete off-grid, completely out in the just topographic maps, completely out of the way. So that covers, checks the box for communications, and it checks the boxes for navigation as well. And then I highly suggest everybody get something that we haven't used since the 90s. You know,
What is this? A map?
a
Oh,
road
Atlas, Road Atlas.
Yep, a road
Okay.
atlas. And I got the National Geographic Adventure Edition because this happens to include a lot of national and state parks with real
Mhm.
topo maps and stuff. So,
Okay.
you know, depending on how far off grid, how far you need to get away from civilization, I
Right.
highly recommend getting, and I have a couple of them, so that because, you know, your GPS in your car or your cell phone or something like that may not be working. You can't count on that. So this is what you need these days. You need to have a physical map, an
Yep, I
atlas.
didn't think of that one either. I just
And
be
that's
wandering around like, okay, this is all really good, Joel, because like I said, I mean, a lot of us like, okay, we can prepare, we can get food and we can get water, and then we're like, okay, what else do we need? So
yeah.
I wouldn't have thought of a map or atlas, you know, your devices I didn't even know of. So that this is all really good info. Thank you for this.
Yeah, you're welcome. So
Yep.
the big three that we have to get to. So we got navigation and communication kind of figured out. Another thing that I would look into, I don't really have much of a worry about it, but anybody who's driving a modern car has, you know, geolocation type stuff in it. And
Yeah.
if you're driving an electric car, you know, you're really kind of screwed. But even any modern car, I would make sure I had alternate means of transportation that are
Right.
not connected up to anything not locatable, that nobody's going to be able to push a button and locate me.
Yeah. That's important. One of my friends, Dale, who's been prepping for years, he's always like, you guys have to get like an old truck that's not electrical or anything like that. Cause if they shut down the grid, your cars are going to get zapped.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
those
EMF,
things-
EMPs. That's another thing that they may do, as a false flag, or just do it anyways, as an electromagnetic pulse, which all your electronic gear is going to be fried, just anything. And so we need to have, when we're in the SEAL teams, something we used to say is 2 is 1 and 1 is none, which basically means if you are planning on having a capability like a radio capability, if you bring 2, then you can count on having 1 and you can factor it into your plans. But that doesn't take the place of knowing how to use a map and compass. And
Right.
so all these things that we're talking about being able to do, you should have a way, at least one of your ways should be something that is not dependent on battery life, any kind of electronic chips or anything like that. So if it gets fried or the batteries die, you're still able to do what you need to do.
Right. Okay. Good
So,
point.
yeah, factor that into everything that you do,
Yeah.
that you plan for.
Okay.
And then so now we go to the big three, which is shelter, water, food, in that order. So shelter, I mean, we're assuming that we're going to have a house, something to be in, and so that's something I'm not really worried about. Shelter, there's plenty of shelter around, and that's not really where the threat is coming from. But water and food, absolutely. I'm hooked up to the water system here, and then I have an amazing water filtration system. But what I used to use before I had this was a Berkey, a big Berkey, which I'm sure you're.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I was in Africa shooting some of the shows, we were in, the darkest heart of Africa, where we were like a 4-hour plane ride away from anything. And we were drinking water from the Waleshe River, and we were filtering it through a Berkey, and it was amazing. So we're drinking the nicest water in the planet, and a Berkey will clean that up. So I have my old Berkey in the garage in case I need it. And there's no shortage of water where I'm at, so I'm not worried about that. And I put a water collection system in on my house, which is something that I did for rainwater, mainly just for irrigating my garden and my orchard. So I didn't really plan on using it as drinking water, but I've got 6 55-gallon drums out there. And so I've got like 3 gallons worth of water out there, and it fills up in a heavy rainstorm. And one day it'll fill entirely up. And so I can use that for emergency use very easily. And rainfall, people say to purify rainwater, you don't have to. Rainwater is pH balanced, and it's all the things that could be bad are left behind. The only things you have to be concerned with are when it, chemtrails and things like that, when it falls to the sky, what it might pick up. And then when, whatever it lands on before you collect it, you need to be concerned about. But other than that, rainwater is naturally purified. And so in an emergency situation, I'm probably not worried about boiling my rainwater. I'm just going to drink it.
I've got some.
So I would definitely, in this situation, I would figure it out. I mean, somebody nearby or somewhere nearby, there's going to be a water source. So locate where you're gonna go, how you're gonna carry it. The two things with water when you're in a survival situation, well, three things really. Locating water, one, you need to know where your water sources are going to be, and two, you need to carry it and you need to purify it. So you need to have a couple different ways. And when I was doing survival stuff, I'd usually carry like a turkey oven roasting bags, because those are great for a lot of different things and they're strong, and I could carry water from a water place to where I'd boil it or whatever. And then you need to have a couple different ways to filter it, to purify it. So there's two aspects with water purification. One is just mud and corruption and leaves and stuff. You need to get that out. But then what's more important are the parasites and amoebas and things like that you need to deal with. So some things will filter the mud out of water, but you need to filter the stuff that's going to get you sick or can kill you out of the water as well. And so good water filters will do both, but not all will. And a lot of the primitive ones will, you just have to know what you're doing. Something that I suggest, and I have 4 or 5 of these just at any point in time, is something, the brand name I believe is Sani Straw. And if I were more prepared, I would have all these to show you, but the Sani Straw is a plastic tube that's probably about 12 inches long and about 1 inch around. And it's a incredible filtration system. You can wear it around your neck. And if you're a place that's really has a lot of water, you can just lean down to mud puddles and just suck it through the straw, and you'll get pure, beautiful water just by drinking out of the most nasty source. And so that's something that's just handy to have. You can take it out when you're just hiking or you're just going on a camping trip or anything like that. It's just handy to, if you're running or training outside in the wilderness, the woods, you can drink water anytime.
Okay.
So those are good to have, but a couple different ways to purify water and carry water, and an identified water source that you can get your H2O from. That's what you need to worry about with water. And then we get to the big one that everyone goes to, which is not the most important one, which is food.
Right.
And so we can talk about food a lot, because I hear so many advertisements and see so many people buying, 6 months worth of freeze-dried food or MREs or something like that. And that's great. One, if you can afford it, and two, you have the room to store it. But eat those things for 1 week straight, nothing but then for just 1 week, and then come tell me how you like it. Come talk to me after you eat it for 1 week. Yeah. So, but MREs are delicious if you only eat them one day. So I have a couple cases of MREs, and I have they have so much crap in them that I just don't want to eat them. And then I have a bunch of freeze-dried food. But here's how you can make all of that last and how you can make it palatable is then you go to the store and you buy all kinds of canned food and you grow some things at your house. And that way, if it gets to the point where, we're screwed and I'm eating hearty beef stew, that's all I have to eat for today. Well, I crack a can of kidney beans or some spinach or whatever, and I mix it in or I have it on the side. And now I'm able to get a more variety of nutrition, less preservatives and crap, and I can stretch out and just make it palatable, really. But that's for emergency stuff, emergency. And then frozen, I also have, I highly suggest people make friends with a rancher and a farmer, because I have one of my freezers, I have a standing freezer that's full of half a cow that I just got from my rancher.
Right.
And so I asked him if I could buy a half cow. He's like, well, I don't usually sell half cows, but I'm gonna butcher one for myself, my family, if you want to go in on it with me. But usually you can buy a half cow, or you find somebody and you buy a half cow with them. So you call your rancher up like, hey, we want a whole cow. So they'll finish it off in the barn for 30 days. So you've got a real ethically raised, grass-fed cow, and then they send it to the processor, and the processor gets the final hanging weight, which is what you pay for, and then they butcher it all up, and then I got like 270 pounds of beef, I think, and my total cost was $1,700, and that's for the beef and for the processing and everything. Then with the gardens and the orchard, then you grab a pound of ground beef and stir that up and pull the peas out of the garden, and now you're eating amazingly well.
Right.
And
Right.
and you're covered. I also have chickens, and so I have a lot of eggs. I got 7 dozen sitting on my counter right now. I got to get rid of some. But
Wow.
I think if things start going, one of the things for people to think about is if things get bad like that, there's a couple things to think about. One is you saw how people went over toilet paper. That was toilet paper that you don't need. Wait till it's food.
Exactly.
Wait till it's food. Then it's going to be ugly. You're not going to want to be in a city. That's for sure.
Joel, how, if you could predict, like how bad do you think it would get, that there's empty shelves in all the stores, or that there's just not as much food? Like what?
I don't think anybody knows, but I think the things that I'm concerned with is empty shelves for sure. And then also the cost is just going to skyrocket because there's
Right,
going to be some food, but you know what happens when the demand is there and the supply is
Right.
not, you know, it's going to become very, very, very difficult for people to purchase things for their kids and stuff like that. So when I prep and when I get my shit together for this, I'm not just doing it for me and for my loved ones. There are a lot of people, and there's going to be a lot of families around here who can't afford food for their kids. And
Right.
if I can help them out with a dozen fresh eggs and some, you know, fresh apples from my tree and stuff,
Yeah.
then we're all in it together. One of the things that I've really felt strongly about in everything that's been happening lately is it's calling us to community. And
Yeah, for
you know,
sure.
this whole 5D thing, it's just people coming together like we used to, just community. You know, community on so many different levels. And so I want to be a part of that. But what I suggest for people who are who realize what could possibly be coming and are interested in prepping for their family and for their friends and for their community, I highly suggest not trying to do it all, because nobody can be a rancher and a farmer and a spinner and a clothes sewer and all those things. But all those things are still going to be necessary, whether we are in a 6-week period of darkness before the light breaks out, or whether it's getting dark for several years, or whatever happens, or we go into this new economy, this new world. I think that people are going to find something that they do well and barter that with everyone else. Like I said, I got 7 dozen eggs on my counter right now. I can't eat them, but I need somebody to fix my overalls, you know? And so I would find something that you are good at, or you have the land for, or you like to do, and get that to where you're able to scale that up very quickly to barter and exchange the things that you need with the things that you do really well.
Yeah, agreed. The crazy thing is trying to find that many people that actually believe this is going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, that's one thing. I was just thinking about like the neighborhood, and I'm like, these people don't even know what's going on. You know?
Yeah. And so, and another thing, especially with you being in the city and stuff, you know, how are you set for weapons and for defense?
Well, I'm outside the city, thankfully. Like, some of my family is actually in the city, and I said, like, anything happens, like, you better get up here. I grew up in the city, but I'm in the suburbs now.
That's good. But I would still, I mean, and as far as I'm talking about a barter economy, having a weapon and ammunition is super important. And that's the kind of thing that ammunition is going to be going to be a serious barter. I mean, that's just for people are going to want ammunition is just going to go up in value. It already is right now. It's hard to get it right now. And I have physical gold and silver. I have a bunch of cash, although that's, you know, going to be worthless pretty soon, I think. But I still, if communication shit gets shut down, I've got, you know, I personally have several thousand in my safe so that I'm able to continue on if banking systems get frozen or things like that. I also have a lot of gold and silver, or a good amount of it, and I have some crypto. And that's kind of more long term, but I mean, I would definitely have a weapon and some ammunition and know how to use it. Here, so I've just got dozens of fat little squirrels running around. I hate to do that, but if it comes down to it, you know, squirrels pretty good eating.
Have you eaten squirrels before?
Yeah. Yeah. In
Yeah.
fact, one of the best wild meats I've ever had is flying squirrel. I had
What?
a
Really?
flying squirrel. Yeah, I had a flying squirrel in Taiwan, actually. Those guys are incredible shots. They cooked it up in the stew and it was delicious.
Oh my God. Hopefully I won't have to eat any kind of meat products.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
hopefully you won't.
I know. We're stocking up on like the beans and all that kind of stuff.
Yes. Those are great. Those are fantastic to stock up on. Dry goods like beans, beans. I have a
Yeah.
lot myself and I am a meat eater, but for people who aren't, or just anybody, beans are just the best. I mean, if my electricity goes out and my freezer dies before I can get my generator going,
Mhm.
I'm out, almost 300 pounds of beef, and that's going
Right.
to be a serious hit on my meal plans. And so I've got a bunch of bush beans and a bunch of vine beans planted down in my garden, and my peas are popping up. The beans haven't yet, but I'm counting on some beans. I got a lot
Mhm.
of fruit, but
Yeah.
beans, yeah, dry goods like that, I would have a good store of.
But a lot of people are like, oh, get frozen stuff. But like you said, if the grid goes down, the electricity goes out, and you don't have a generator, then that's not going to be that great.
You better eat quick. Yeah,
Right.
you better eat quick. It's like your mom when the power went out. Everybody eat ice cream. But it's hard to do with T-bone steaks.
Yeah. Well, 300 and some pounds of it or however much you bought. Yeah. I'd
Yeah,
say so.
like long-term storage, food storage and stuff. So really, I would have something besides the beans and lentils and barley and things like that, which I have a bunch of all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
I would definitely have um, some sort of regenerative, some sort of farming, some sort of, I mean, if you're in an apartment and you have a balcony, get some window boxes, build a small thing out there. You can grow a lot of things. You won't be able to grow a ton, or make friends with a farmer or somebody who has a. I remember in World War II, everyone was building victory gardens, growing victory gardens. I heard a stat that people were eating 40% of their vegetables from their victory gardens.
Wow.
And yeah, that was, of course, before the media was completely controlled. And so, they're actually had more of your interests at heart
Right.
instead of just pushing a narrative. So
Right.
in the city, you can have a beehive. Beehives, you have those on roofs in New York City and stuff. Bees are incredibly uh, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? They are able to make use of really what you would not think a bee would be able to survive and find nectar and pollen and such. Bees will. They will go
Mhm.
5 miles from their hive and collect things and come back. So
Wow.
bees are a great home hobby, especially if you don't have much room, or a green thumb or anything like that, a room to keep livestock. Keep a beehive on your roof. Bees don't take a lot of work, and they don't take a lot of money,
Mhm.
and the return on investment is amazing. And everybody wants fresh honey and fresh honeycomb. And if things go
Right.
to shit, I'd trade a bunch of steaks, or beans, or a bushel of apples for just a slice of fresh honeycomb.
Yeah.
That's some good stuff.
Yeah.
So
Amazing.
yeah, so a lot of things, you think about growing it for your own sustenance, but also think about barter and trade.
Yep.
What could I grow, or what could I do? What could I be set up to be able to get the things I need from other people who need what I have, my skill
Right.
set?
Yeah. Amazing. I just wanted to keep this like short, but if there's anything important, things of importance you want to add, we can add that. But if not, this was beyond my expectations. Not that I would expect less, but just really important things that I just had no idea even existed. So
Awesome. Well, I'm glad.
yeah.
No, I mean, we could talk about this. This is something I think a lot about, and I've done for a while, and um, I've thought strategically about this for many, many, many years, and so
Mhm.
it's something I enjoy talking about, and especially to other people that are concerned and see the value of it. So
Absolutely.
I'm happy to talk about.
Yeah, if we didn't have this, I mean, literally what would we do? And that's going to be a lot of people. So I understand the chaos and all those things. And, the fact that you have to be able to protect yourselves in a really insane situation that I really hope we never have to face. But I mean, it doesn't look like that's you know,
I I think my personal belief is I think it's going to come for a month or 6 weeks, it'll be bad. But I don't think it's gonna be allowed to go further than that because I think the good guys are in control. But if I'm wrong, I'm gonna be just fine. You know,
I'm coming over there, Joel. If you have to get stuck with anybody, I want to get stuck with you. That's for sure.
I got a lot of beans.
Fine, perfect. Joel, I'm so
Alrighty.
appreciative and thankful of your time, and we'll catch up again because you're just a wealth of knowledge.
Thank
So
you,
thank you
Crystal.
again for joining Crystal Teeny TV, and I will text you shortly and just touch base.
Sounds good.
Thank you,
Bye,
darling.
everybody.
Bye. Fine, that's fine. I don't have a lot of eye makeup on today, but I guess that's okay. I guess that's all right. I have to make sure that my eyelashes are curled. That's all. Hopefully he remembers it's at 15 today. Anytime I bring my jug of water, people are like, that's a really big jug of water. It's like, well, do you want to be hydrated or not? You can't look young if you're dehydrated. Okay. It's so weird because okay. Okay, there it is. Yes. Oh, he's here. I did it.